everybody, it's Randy for Thunder Horse Ascendant. I'm here today with project number 3. Project number 3 is knotted necklaces. Don't know if you can see my little design on here. But it's knotted necklaces, and we are doing both October and November. So this might take, honestly, to record it might take me a couple days. Hopefully not that long. So I'm doing the intro now since I'm already dressed, right? But we have October, which is project 3, using all of the rainbow jasper, if I remember correctly. And then November with the moss agate, both of which I honestly think is going to be smashing. So there we go. This is project 3. Let's get down to the mat. Get this part started. Good morning, party people. Good morning. It's Randy for Thunder Horse Ascendant. Here we are on the mat, down on the mat. We have project 3, and this guy is, this is our original October design. So these are the October beads. We're going to start with him first. This is a knotted necklace utilizing an Old Faithful clasp. Looks like we're going bronze, and we're using the rainbow jasper, and that's what we got going on. All right, and then for November, we're going to use the moss agate. So for November, I'm going to put those over here for now. We're going to get into October. Oh yeah, that's going to go good. All right, so if you have not done knotting with me before, what I like to do is I like to get everything ready, and then we're going to take a look at the size of our beads. Do we need spacers? Are we going to use 2 strings? That whole type of thing. So we're going to do that. First and foremost, I got to find a tweezer. All right, guys, I still can't find my other tweezer. As you know, we just remodeled, or like redid the studio. So I'm going to be using the shovel tweezer. I usually use one of our black or one of our silver tweezers, but I'm guessing that they got wrapped up in the travel tools somewhere, and I don't think the travel tools are up here yet. So anyway, here we are. That's fine. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get my little pine cone ready. And then we're going to take a look at the rest of this situation. Okay. So, all right, camera. There we go. So here's my little pine cone. This is just a little charm. He's going to hang off to the side. And I'm going to use these spacers because this amount of beads that we have here is not going to be enough. Even though when we do knotting, we are going to end up with more length. But I am going to utilize the spacers just to be sure I get enough length. Okay, so there we go. These are really pretty beads. I'm excited to see which is going to be, you know, a little more fascinating than the other. So this is how this is going to go. So now what we need to do, if you've not been part of the knotting before, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I do suggest, especially if you're using different types of beads, that you take a look at your beads and you see about the hole size. So what I do is I use our Ceylon. We do sell Ceylon on Thunder Horse Ascendant. So I have not used this color, so I'm actually really excited about it. But basically this is 0.5 millimeter Ceylon. This is basically the only size that I have or use because it's really the only size I need. I mean, you might have other things going on, so that's up to you. But so this is a 0.5. And what I'm going to look at for most beads with this, in order to save myself some headache in the front end, I'm going to look at this and say, okay, this is probably your average size 1.3 to a 1.8 millimeter hole. It's probably a 1.3 really. This one over here is probably a 1.8. Just looking at the size of those, I'm going to want to double up on my string. Okay, so I'm going to use not one piece, but two. Now when we set this up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one full wingspan. I know you can't see me, but I got one full wingspan, and then I'm going to do a half. So 1.5 wingspan, okay? And that's going to be the length on my string. So we are, excuse me, so we are going to double this up. Okay, so I just want to show you. We're going to marry up the ends, and that's going to give us this length here. Okay, so now here's the other thing. Since I'm doubling up on this side, this is just for one side, I am going to have to cut another piece the same length on the other side. So I'm going to do that. Okay, if you were using really small beads, so I can get my 1.5 wingspan over here. If you were using really smaller hold beads, okay, let me be clear. You probably could get away with doing one strand and, you know, what have you. But because of this situation, I think it's just better to be prepared than not. So now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these strings ready by creating needles on them. And if you've been around this channel for any amount of time, all you need to do is take a little plastic bag or something, get yourself some Loctite super glue. Okay, this is the Ultra Gel Control. You can get this anywhere, hardware store, Walmart. And you can use another glue if you'd like. I just use this one because I also use it for leather. It works for a lot of the other projects that I do. So this is the one I always have on hand. And I'm just going to run this through there about 3 times on each strand. If you hear some commotion going on, don't worry. That's just cat business happening this morning. I don't know if I mentioned, but it's like 6 o'clock in the morning right now. Okay, so another thing to remember is when you very first get these needles in there worked in with this glue, it is going to add a little extra bulk to your needle. Once you get it worked in, meaning you've put on a few beads and they've, you know, it's had time to kind of work in with the string, it's not going to be as thick. So if you at first have an issue, just know that that'll probably dissipate throughout time here. Now I do about 2 inches, 2.5, sometimes 3 inches on these needles because whenever I get into a situation, I might need to trim it off, make sure it's still sharp, all that. So I do about 2.5 inches at least. Do I ever really need that much? No, but you're not going to use that anyways. You know, I mean, you're going to cut it off in the end. So we're doing all 4 pieces. I like to get all 4 pieces ready to rock before we get going here. Just makes it easier. Doing about 2-3 coats on here. It's on my finger. And I'm just putting those to the side so they can dry. Okay? So I'm going to let those dry, make sure they're completely dried up before I start trying to use them. I always get impatient and I'm just like, okay, let's go. But that's what I got to do. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll start putting on our string into this pendant, and then we'll be able to start the process. All right, I think we're all dry now. So these things might differ a little bit for each individual project that you're doing, which is why I'm kind of explaining it this way. But I'm going to start off with my first bit of cording here. And I'm going to cut this at an angle so that it's sharp on both sides. So the situation is I could run these through depending on how large the hole is. This hole in this pendant is not very big, but I gotta be able to make sure I can get 4 cords through there. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, but if you can't, if you have a pendant that's too small, that's fine. Let me see if this is the way I want to go. Okay, so that's Lark's head knot there. Okay, let me see if I can get the other side in. If not, we might have to switch a roomie. So I'm going to first get this side in there first before we make any decisions. And this is something you're only going to find out once you start, right? So let me see if I can get this other side in there without this looking like a hot mess. Oh, Bunsen is on one, by the way. I don't know. He's having a morning, per usual. Okay, Lark's head knot. Okay, so it is looking like I can do that. And it doesn't look, sorry, I'm trying to make it focus here. It doesn't look like it's too, you know, messy or anything. So that's the way I'm gonna go. Now, if you had a pendant that the hole was smaller, you couldn't get all 4 through there, you would just have to do, go through once, don't do the Lark's head, and then tie a knot, okay? So that is up to you. Now here's another option. You can tie these all together, right? All 4 together, or you could tie individual knots this way. So my thing with that is if I was going to use another, like a bead, like say a large hole bead to go on top, I would probably tie them all together. But I do not have a large hole bead. They didn't provide one. I mean, you probably could make this one work if you wanted to on all 4. But since we don't have that, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like this. And I'm going to split these 2 out. Make sure they're the same 2 from the Lark's head tails. Okay. And I'm going to tie this one individually with my tweezer. Okay, so how we're going to do that is you're just going to make sure that they're the way you want them to be. You're going to go around. You're going to go through here once. You're going to go through here twice, keeping everything together. Come in with your tweezer, go through the loop, and then you're going to grab hold of what we call the base string. Now, wherever you put your tweezer is where your knot's going to go. So I'm going to do it a little, I'm going to leave maybe a millimeter of space on top of my Lark's head knot. Okay, so I'm going to pull that down. Now when you're pulling this, you want to pull this straight up towards the camera, right? You're going to pull the tweezer out, and then you're going to grab a hold of it. You're not going to put too much pressure here because you just want to slide the knot into place, but you do want to pull this up and push this down at the same time. Okay? So there is the knot. So that's that side. We're going to do the other side. I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to go around, go through there once, twice, grab my tweezer, go through the loop. Come on, camera. Leave a millimeter of space above the Lark's head knot. Grab these tails, pull them straight up, pretty tight. Okay. Hello, party people. Come on. Why are you not focusing? Just trying to drive me crazy. Okay, so there we are. I'm going to pull this out. And all this business out of the way. And I'm going to push it down into place. Okay, So that is what we have. So this is going to be the start of our necklace. Okay, now if you didn't want to do this and you want to add beads and stuff, you definitely can. This is just how I'm going to do it. And by doing it this way, I'm already, you can see I'm already splitting off into like a Y, and that's what I want. So I'm going to start with this side, just because I'm right-handed and it's easier. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to put on my first bead. Okay, so now whichever bead you want to put on first is up to you. I think I'm going to go with one of these little spacers because they're not too large, therefore down here at the Y they're not going to knock into each other. Oh, hung up on all these tools. I can put all these tools away now because I don't need them till later. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do a couple of beads. A lot of you have seen my knotting videos before, so this is nothing new to you. If you are new here, I'm going to show a couple of beads, putting them on. It's just how I do it. And then I'll probably maybe work on my own, or maybe do a little fast forwarding, just because it's the same step over and over again, and we have 2 of these to make, so you know, don't want it to be too repetitive. But here we are. Okay, so we got our first bead. We're going to do the same knot. We're going to take these tails together as though they are one. We're going to come around here, come through one time, come through a second time. Okay, now let's say you were using a bead that had a little bigger hole and you were scared. You just go through a third time. Okay, that's all you do. Should be fine. So right here, I'm going to come through the loop with my tweezer. Grab a hold of the base string right above the bead. Now here's the thing where people get messed up. You want to make sure this loop is on the tweezer. You don't want it over here. You want it on the tweezer. Okay. You're then going to pull this straight up towards the sky, kind of tight. Okay. This is what you get. You're going to pull it out, and then you're going to slide that knot into place. Okay, so you can see here that this knot, the doublesies, is perfectly fine to block off this bead hole. Now if this bead had a bigger hole, and you might need to do a third trip, okay? Now if you didn't want to do that, you might move up a cording, right? But I don't think we're using that large beads, so the 0.5 should be fine. And that is the first bead. So then we're going to move on to the second bead. Now at this point is where you're going to decide what you want your pattern to be. I think I'm just going to go like, I should really split these to make sure I have enough, is what I should do, but we'll do that after. I'm just going to put on a couple here so you know the drill. So now this is also important. You want to make, especially if you're using different beads, you got to make sure that this, we've already checked that this knot is big enough to block this bead, but is it also big enough to block the top bead, especially when you're going to be putting pressure on it by tying other things onto it, right? So it is, as you can see, because this one had a significantly smaller hole than this one, probably a 1.3 versus, or 1.2 probably versus a 1.8. So this double knot that we're doing will be fine. So we're going to do it again. 1, 2. Come in through the loop, grab right above the bead. Make sure your loop is on the tweezer. Get a hold of the tails, pull them straight up. And when you're using the double cording, you want to make sure that you're pulling both at the same time as though they are one, because otherwise you'll end up with some funky business and it'll be funky monkey, and you don't want that. Okay, so there you go. Then you're going to pull this bead out just to kind of lock that knot into place, and that's how you go. Okay, it's the same step again. I'll do one more for you, and then we're going to split these beads out. I think I might do 2. Just because I feel like I have more of these than I do of these, right? So we're gonna go 1, we're gonna go 2. Okay, we are going to go through the loop right above the bead. And we're gonna pull this straight up. You can push this knot down with your thumbnail if you want to. It is important to go straight up. Don't be going out like this, because when you start going out like this, it's gonna be a problem. Yeah, straight up, okay? Now what I do when I start to get some beads on because of gravity, I take this out and I put everything down. This is going to help you avoid having like slack that you didn't know was there and then you have like space. Okay, because you don't want that. Then push the bead into place. Pull the bead up towards the knot, lock it in. There we go. So we're on it. We're on it, we're on it. 2 is kind of a funky number for me, so I might actually do 3. Let's see, what am I doing these yellow ones? Ooh, these beads are really pretty though. I like them a lot. Okay, 1 more. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Once you get going on, it's pretty easy. Okay. So there we go. And then the next one will be a metal bead, right? And that'll be my pattern. But I don't want to get going too much and then not get my beads split out because I'll end up in a problem. So this is for this side. I've already got, and this is for the other side. So I've already got 1 of these and 3 beads over here. And now I need to split the rest. Just so I know what I have available to me. I don't really plan my patterns out beforehand because I'm a crazy person. And so this is the extent of my planning. I'm like, do we have enough for each side? Then we do these. Like I said, I don't think we have as many of these as we do those, but it could also be just because they're small and my brain isn't recognizing that. But just to be sure. Okay, and then this little guy goes on this side. So now we have enough for each side. And honestly, I think we'll probably have extra beads left, you know, once we get going here. But this is the situation. So this is what we're gonna do. And like I said, the only other thing that I would suggest as you start out with this project is that you just be mindful and do it slow, because once you get going in a rhythm, sometimes when I say we, I mean me, I get going fast and I'm just like hop-de-dum, la-di-da, not really paying attention. And that's when I end up with space. Like I'll get an extra space or something because I just wasn't paying good enough attention and I didn't pull it down all the way, or I wasn't paying attention when I did the first knot. Now there's a space. So I would just say be mindful of that. Other than that, I'll probably continue on with this on my own. I will show you how I am going to end it. For this one, I do believe I'm going to use clamshells at the top, and I will also probably be using the Old Faithful clasp on here. So it will be a clasp. I would think that this necklace is going to be anywhere between, based on the beads, anywhere between 18 and 20 inches. I would like it to be 20 inches, especially if I'm going to use an Old Faithful that is not adjustable. But that's up to you. So there's the situation with that. So I will show you when I get to the top how to end it and how I'm going to start again down here, which is basically the same. And then as we move into the next project, the next one, which is these, we'll kind of cover a little bit of this again a little bit, okay? All right, there we go for now. I did want to show you how I was going to put on this little pine cone. So as you can see, I've made it, got three, so 2 sets of 3. And right here, I'm going to do this little guy and then my pine cone. You could do it the other way too if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. But I'm gonna do that, and it's really easy. You just basically tie it on like it's a charm. Now, if you felt uncomfortable with that, another thing you could do is you could just hook it on. You know, I mean, it is a jump ring. You could just hook it on wherever you felt necessary. But I think it looks nice with its own knot set. That's just my personal opinion. So I'm going to do this. Okay. And then the little pine cone, and I'm just going to put him on through the jump ring here, and he's going to be hanging like this. So I'm just going to do just as if he were a bead, you know, 1, 2, and right above the other knot. Okay. Now at this point he can slide over, but once we put that bead on there, he's not going to be able to. So you don't necessarily have to put 2 knots there, but I do like it because then, you know, it is metal, and if it is swooshing around, you have 2 knots, you got more bulk, you know, it's not going to cause too much friction, in my personal opinion. It's a safety mechanism. But you wouldn't have to. You could just attach it on and just not do the knots at all, you know, for this specific situation. But this is how it looks with the knots, okay? And once I get this one on, he won't be able to move. I mean, past where he's at. So okay. Come on. There we go. So see, he won't be able to move past that. And he won't be able to move past this metal one either. So there we go. I just wanted to show you how I was going to do that. So we're getting there. Alright guys, here we are down at the end of our necklace. As you can see, I've put on this clamshell here to end everything. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so when you end, I've done my pattern. Now I did end up having a couple of beads left because it didn't quite, it would be 2 on each side instead of 3. So I just decided to end here. So I just kept knotting as I normally would, and then I'm to this knot. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your clamshell, and I'll tell you that I like to use the ones that look like this, where they have the hole in the bottom, and then they come together at the top for this particular situation, for most situations actually. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your 2 strands, you're going to come in through the bottom of this clamshell, bring it down, make sure everything is even, okay? And what I do is I just bend it out just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. And then we're just going to tie a knot right here as we normally would. So we're going to go around, 1, 2, You're going to get your tweezer, come in through the loop, and grab a hold of the base strings right down here. And focus. Right where that clamshell is meeting the string, we want it to be nice and tight. And we're going to just pull it up. And then push this down to lock our knot into place. So we have something that looks like this. Okay. Then what we do is you're going to take your Loctite super glue, the gel control, and you're going to put a little bit on the knot, not too much, just a little smidge. And I go up the tails a little bit. Okay. We're going to give that a little hot minute to dry up. The reason we want to go up the tails a little bit is because we're going to go ahead and cut them pretty short so that everything fits inside the clamshell. And if you have a little bit of glue on them, it makes them stiffer and a little more stable to deal with instead of it fraying out or coming out the side of the clamshell or something to that effect. So we don't want that. So this stuff takes about 90 seconds to dry. We're going to come in and we're going to cut pretty close. It also makes it a little bit easier to cut so close because they're a little more stiff. We're going to do away with these strands, and then this is what we have. And I just first bring it together with my fingers, like that, kind of loosely. And then I'm going to take my plier and I'm just going to kind of squish him a little bit to make sure that he's closed. Now don't be Hercules in it or anything. No need for that. Just got to make sure that he's closed. And the glue is still a little bit tacky, so it's also going to stick onto the inside of the clamshell. So here we have this, and then we're going to put on our clasps. So for this part, I'm going to be using these two larger oval jump rings. These are 8s. I'm going to take this and put it through both sides of the clamshell and put on my lobster claw clasp. And just close him up. I like to use a jump ring here in case your lobster claw wears out, the spring gives out, something happens. You then have an option to just change out the clasp instead of having to go all the way through the situation of having to re-knot everything. So I do like that. This is not very straight. There we go. And then on this other side, you could add an extender if you want. I don't think I'm going to need one. This one I think is going to be 20 some odd inches. So I'm just going to put this one here as the ending. And this is what our ending looks like on the knotting. Okay, so this is for the October necklace. Let me zoom you out so you can see the whole thing. We'll get a measurement. I always measure from where the pendant starts, or like where the Y splits. So we've got 22 inches. .22 inches, which is lovely because in my personal opinion that's going to work for unisex as well. So now this is what we end up with for October. So this is the rainbow jasper with the rainbow jasper pendant. And I was correct in thinking that this pendant that was kind of, you know, it doesn't have a lot going on, you know. It does look really good with these beads, so I am happy about that with the rainbow jasper. And then I do have the little pine cone on there, also on a jump ring, so you could, you know, remove it if you didn't like that kind of thing. But there we go. One down, one to go. Now let me say this. One thing that I do with all of my knotting projects is I'm going to hang this up on probably like my tripod or something, because you can see where I've knotted it and it's just not relaxed yet. So I'm going to hang it up overnight. I'm going to give it just a little spritz of water, just the tiniest little spritz of water, so it can relax a little bit. It's going to lock in those knots, and then with the gravity of everything, it will relax. Okay, so that is the plan for this guy. He is complete. I really dig him a lot. Okay, and then we are going to move on into the second one, which is November. So this is October versus November, obviously. And these are moss agate stones with the moss agate pendant and the little charm for the side, the little tree. And then I'm going to use these spacers. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy set up and ready to go, and we'll move on from there. Alright guys, here we are with necklace number 2 from November, using all the moss agate. I have my pendant all set up, same as we did originally on the first one. So I have done 2 lark's head knots and then put a knot over the top to lock it in. Same with the other one. Using 2 strands, I've made my needles for my strands on there. And then I got my little pendant ready to go by just putting a jump ring on him. And I think what we're going to do, since this is kind of like a head-to-head situation, I'm going to do the same pattern as I did on the jasper one. So I'm going to start with a metal, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 of the stones and continue on the same way that we did the first one. Okay, so again, we're just doing the same pattern. I decided to go with an orange on this one, a little bit different, little pop color. So I'm just going to use one of these silver spacers, bring him down. We're going to wrap around 1, same move, wrap around 2, come in with our tweezer, through the loop and onto the base string. Okay. And pull straight up. And push our knot into place. Lock him in. And we are started on that side. Okay. I did also split my beads, so I know what I'm working with over here. And I'll do a couple beads over here, and then I'll probably meet you up at the top to show you the situation. We're going to start with our first stone bead. All right, so there's our first set of our pattern, and I will continue on like this up to the top. All right, everybody, we made it to the top of this moss agate one. We're gonna give her a little measure. I'm betting this one is a little shorter than the other. 20. Yeah, 20. Okay, so the other one is 2 inches longer, and I believe that to be based on, because I used the same amount of beads. I had 4 left in the green, and I also had 4 left on the jasper, just because of the pattern. But these had smaller spacers, where the other spacers that we used were significantly larger, so there we go. And we're going to get this guy womped up on the ends again. So if you missed it the first time, here's how we go. Now I have a silver clamshell. Same kind as before. I'm going to put him on there. Okay, and then we're going to tie our knot. Come in with the tweezer, get a hold of the base string, make sure it's really close to the bottom of the clamshell, like so. And whoop, make sure you don't get hung up in your clamshell. Okay. And then push him into place. So we should have this. And then we glue. Whoa. And while that's drying, I'm going to do the other side. Alright guys, so here we are. We just got to finish this up real quick with our Old Faithful clasp. Decided to go on Old Faithful on this one because, you know, it's my fave. So again, I have glued this. It's stiff. We are getting pretty close to the knot. And then we are going to go ahead and finger close on each side. This one, honestly, might be a little bit of an issue. We're gonna hope for the best. And then we're going to close this up with the pliers. Just kind of straighten him out there. It's just in there at a weird angle. My knot is. And pull him to the center and try to straighten him out that way. I'm gonna take my burner and go on that a little bit, but it's about the best I can do. And then we're gonna take our oval jump rings and then just put on our clasp. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Alright, and here's what our end looks like. My battery might be a little bit low. It's not focusing very good. I'll just turn the light off a little bit. Yeah, so there we go. That is what the end looks like. And here's the entirety of the necklace. Zoom out just a smidge. There we go. Yeah. He's looking quite cute, I have to say. Again, I will hang him up and do a little spritz of water so that everything can relax with the knotting. But this is November, using the moss agate and the little tree. I quite enjoy the little pop of color myself. So let's take a look at them side by side. I'll put November over here since this is the order of months. All right, so there we go. This is October, this is November. Same design. Whoa. Same design with everything here. I do have a favorite. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I would like to know what your favorite is. Do you like October with the jaspers, or do you like November with the moss agate? Let it down in the comments. Let me know which one you think is the winner. I'll get you some photos. But yeah, quite good. I quite enjoyed them a lot. This is the original design. I mean, yeah, I think we did it. So there we go. Alright guys, I hope you're having a wonderful, spectacular, amazing beading day. Don't forget to join us on Facebook. Show us what you're working on today. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, do all the things. It's good for the channel. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.